You are not consciously controlling everything that you eat. Have you ever felt like you were a little bit out of control and like somebody else was, controlling what you eat? It feels like, you're just a puppet in a bigger game. And I think, you got to ask yourself sometimes, are all foods created equal? This definition I'd like you to have called hyper-palatable foods. Sounds like a real fancy, technical term, but what it really means is foods that are super rewarding. They're foods that are specifically engineered to be highly rewarding to the brain, leading to overconsumption and potential addiction-like behavior. These foods are often high in calories, low in nutrient density, and designed to be easily overeaten. I have here 20 examples of hyper-palatable foods just so you can get an idea of what they actually are. Ones that you might, recognize when you have overeaten something so much that you feel sick at the moment or the next day. Like pizza and fried chicken, cheese-based foods, right? And the very processed versions like, your mac and cheese, cheeseburgers, entire companies, hundreds of billions of dollar companies are based on, how addictive these cheeseburgers are. Fried apps. So any appetizer, you step up the hyper-palatability by deep frying it. Usually some type of sweet sauce. Sugary cereals. I think we all have our favorite cereal from, growing up. And if you didn't get cereals, you might not be as kind of nostalgic about it, but mine personally was Reese's for breakfast. Sugary drinks, they don't do much on fullness. So again, processed snacks that are also flavored. Brownies and cakes, I think these are kind of obvious. These are things, that at celebrations, birthdays, blah, blah. Ice cream's a big one. You've seen in the movies when somebody's really sad and they have a breakup, what do? They eat an entire tub of ice cream. Candy bars, perfect. You're mixing the fat that are combined with sugar and you get, kind of a milk chocolate. The exception would really be high cacao content, so dark chocolate. That's less of a hyper-palatable food. You'll notice it's a little more bitter. Pasta with creamy sauce. Pasta in and of itself, as soon as you put in the creamy sauce, you're mixing the carbohydrates and the fat and you're close to addictive food. Nachos, especially when you combine the nachos with the cheese, those two are pretty hard to stop once you get going. French fries, the same, super cheap to make, extremely hard to stop, especially if you have different sauces. Chick-fil-A, all the different sauces. Mine personally, my favorite is the Polynesian sauce. And cheesecake, not my favorite. Again, these are not for everyone. There's only maybe a few that you don't really kind of consider close to addictive. Milkshakes, everyone's got their own favorite flavor. It's kind of a question, are you eating or are you drinking it? Usually over 12 to 1500 calories. So butter popcorn, donuts, and cookies. Popcorn itself, if you strip away the salt and the butter and you kind of minimize those, popcorn can be a pretty high fiber, relatively healthy snack. But as soon as you douse it with butter and salt, you really get powerful combination. And you go to the movies, this is just a special occasion. It's just mindless. You're just kind of throwing it back and you're not even paying attention because you're looking at what's on the screen, even if the movie hasn't started. So donuts, same thing. If someone brings them into work or into, school, bake sale, whatever. You might say there's one or two that are your major kind of problem foods if you're really being honest with yourself. Which ones would you go for first, and have you noticed any patterns about what you eat after that? Maybe they're not on this list, they're not quite as hyper-palatable, but it's something to think about because these are the foods that make you eat more food, and not necessarily the foods that your body wants and needs for the long term for your health and wellness. These are the foods that have been engineered, not in nature, but in food labs. These are the top 20 foods that were listed as hyper-palatable foods. These are foods that are as close to what we humans consider addictive. They get, kind of beneath your conscious awareness about how much and how frequently you eat them. you crave them when you don't have them, and then when you do have them, you crave other things, and you end up eating other things because, you know, willpower is only so strong. Biology is designed to acquire calories, and the denser the calories, the more, you know, rewarding you feel. Think hard about eating one of these foods, because rarely is this ever eaten in isolation. You know, even if it is the same food you're eating over and over, there's only so much, you know, willpower that you can stop once you've started, you know, pizza. Just try to eat one slice. Just eat the food that is hyper-palatable. Do not eat anything else, because you will have appetite extinction if you stick to the one food. So that's one thing you can do. That's kind of a gray area between don't eat any hyper-palatable foods and eat whatever your heart desires whenever you want and how much ever you want. If you're on this channel, I think you're, you know, more likely to have overeaten at least one of these. So consider that, you know, in the future when you have a hyper-palatable food. Actually, right now, if you're eating, you know, one of these, say you're eating, you know, some pizza, or you're having some late night ice cream, keep it to just the ice cream. Keep it to just the pizza, you know? See if it works. It's an experiment.